Hello and welcome back to the channel, and finally making a bit more progress on my Volvo 480. It's getting a little bit sunnier, still a bit cold here, but we need to make some progress. Now I've bought an exhaust clamp and a few other little bits and pieces for the Volvo that we need to take a look at, work out what bits we need to get finished off, and then we'll see how close this is to getting our MOT sorted and it back on the road. One of the issues that I kept finding when it was up and running is the exhaust. Now you can see there at the front we've got our catalytic converter, one of the early catalytic converter models, but that connection there, I'm not sure if you can see it properly, but that connection there is not good. I think I'm getting a little bit of a leak from there. I think that joint is okay. I've used exhaust putty on that, so that should hold it. Now I do think it was hitting somewhere. If I rattled the exhaust, I'd find it was hitting, I think it's the bulkhead just here. That does look quite narrow. I think that should be a bit longer. So what I'm actually thinking is I need to modify the exhaust. It needs to be a little bit longer, which I don't know if that's because this is an aftermarket exhaust, difficult to get OEM ones now, and it's just too short. So I think that's what's causing me a problem on that, on the connector, if it's too short, and also that it's hitting the bulkhead there. I think that's what I'm going to need to do. I might have to cut there, that middle pipe, and use the pipe coupler I've got to extend it just a little bit, and that might give me enough clearance and enough movement to make sure that it's all sealed up nicely. I think the first thing is let's get it up in the air so I can get underneath and take a proper look. Now that I've got the bolts off, you can see what's going on. Here we have our lambda sensor up there and our front flange. And you can see this is flared. There's actually an insert that's dropped out there. And that crushes on the spring loaded, and it goes back, and you see there's these two humps in the chassis. Now that gap there is supposed to fit there, but actually that's a bit short, and what I'm finding is the exhaust is actually hitting off the edge here, and I think that indicates that that piece of pipe there is actually a little bit too short, and that would also explain why I'm struggling when I'm trying to fasten it up here. There doesn't seem to be enough to clamp it tight, and it's pulling the whole exhaust forwards. Now there's no space at the back to move it forward, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut the exhaust here and then use an exhaust clamp to slightly extend it, so the exhaust clamp will sit kind of in this gap, and I think that will set the exhaust right and then let me fasten it properly at the front. At least that's the theory. The only thing is if I extend that, whether this box will then hit here, I'm not sure. This is tricky. I'm going to lift the exhaust back into place, see if I can see what's going on, see if I can see it. There you can see the exhaust hitting. Hopefully you can see that. And I think if I extend that a little bit, that may then start to hit, but there is a bit more gap there. Might get away with that, so I still think extend that bit and see what happens. By the way, there isn't anything that I can do at the far end, I don't think. I don't think that can come any further forward. And even so, this gap still doesn't look long enough. I think that's going to be the easiest option. Get the cutter out, cut that and give that a try. Okay, using the angle grinder, I also used sheet metal around here to protect from sparks, because obviously we've got brake lines, fuel lines, fuel filter, so I used some of the spare metal to kind of protect the rest of the body whilst I was using the angle grinder, and making sure the angle grinder was kind of turning down over so the sparks were hitting the ground. It's not very clean cut at all. I'm going to get the file, just file the ends a little bit, but I've done what I wanted to, and what that means is I can kind of fasten that in the vaguely right place, put the coupler on, and see if we get that extra little bit of distance and avoid it from hitting the bulkhead. Well, it was a good plan to start with, but I've now tensioned the one side all the way up. That's the problem. I needed the next size down exhaust clamp. That's frustrating, so I'm now completely stuck once again. I'm going to need to order another exhaust clamp that is the next size down to be able to clamp onto the exhaust. That's frustrating, so it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to finish this job either. You know something, whilst I was test fitting this, because I thought I might as well try a test fit. That bit seems to fit quite nicely. Actually, this bit is too long as well. That's hitting the underneath of the car, so I think I need to make this joint better. So what I'm going to do is, well, since I can take it off like this now, and I can couple it back up there and there, I'm going to undo this clamp and try to make this a tighter fit as well, because this needs to go forward a bit more. So that might be another problem that I've made. So I'll take this exhaust clamp off, reduce the gap there, test fit that, and then at least when I do get my narrower clamp, that's going to work properly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to order the parts, and I'm going to take you and show you them once they arrive. The idea here is I'm going to cut this part out, either replace this completely with a straight piece, might need a little bend or a movement in there, but if not, then just simply cut this off at the bracket and replace that. I'll show you what I'm looking at. You can see a bit of mild steel exhaust, 2-inch diameter, and also a couple of couplers that are 2-inch size as well, and I think that is going to do what I need to do. It's a few days later and I've got the parts I needed. The exhaust that we want to do, that was the previous front piece, if you remember. So let me just get this right. We've got the fitting there, which goes onto there. Got the cat, and that originally, yeah, that's right, attached onto there. That went along, and then that fits onto there. And what I've done, you can see, I've got some new couplers, and I've got a new piece. And the idea is I'm going to cut this piece out, just not use this piece at all, see if I can just use this straight piece. Let's get under and kind of hold it up and take a look and see what it fits like. Oh, something I've just noticed as well, this had the old hanger on it. Might need to kind of cut that off and weld it onto this so that we've still got some support there, but we'll worry about that later. That's going to go on there, like that, and then our new piece of pipe, I think I'm just going to couple it straight up from there to the end piece, and hopefully it's not going to need to curve too much, because the other one did. The other one had a little bit of a bend in it. just noticed, because it's got, see that, it's got a bit of a curve on it. I think we just attach it to the rear with the new clamps and then try to figure it from there. That on there, on the clamp, and then work out where I need to cut it, and maybe we can get away without shaping it too much, which would be good. You know what, this might actually work. If it goes on somewhere like that, hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. We need to put a bracket on, like I said, somewhere about here. I'm not sure if you can actually see what I'm pointing at here. Let's try again. Exhaust hanger bracket there, but that connector there doesn't look a million miles out lining up. And then that means that we can couple on that piece there, test the length of it with the cat, and then join it up at the top there as well. That should work. On to the next problem. I thought I'd attach the cat properly at the front on the flange, so you can see that's nicely seated. I've done it up quite tight because I wanted to trial fit it, but interestingly there's a bit of a bend upwards there, and then continuing on to the cat, that kind of bends upward a little bit, and if you follow that along, goes straight up, and that's the gear linkage. And that's not good. It's like there should be a bend on there, because when that's flat and mated up like it is like that, that is mated together properly. And it's got the fitting in there, so it's nice. I don't think that's going to have a leak. That's going to be nicely sealed. But you can see it kind of bends upwards. So that's no good at all. Actually, that doesn't bend upwards. No, that's straight. And I think that's the problem. Or another problem, I should say. To me, that should be bent down over somewhat. Not quite sure what to do now. What I decided to do is just pull down on the cat a little bit, so the fitting is a little bit bent. I'm hoping there isn't going to be a blow that comes from the top because of this. Hopefully that fitting will hold it in place, and then you can see I've cut the exhaust down. There's our two brackets. It's not quite lined up, but I'm going to get this one fastened first, get this one nice and snug, and then we can arrange and position the back one, and hopefully it'll all line up. Well, it's quite a while later now. That fitting seems okay. What I've done is I have further adjusted even more brackets. You will notice this section here is a curved piece with a coupler here. We then have our exhaust bracket here, which is necessary. You can see I'm using the time-honoured tradition of using a hammer to hold it up at the moment, but you can see the whole of the exhaust is now sitting what I think looks like the correct position. Yes, let's give you a quick look at where I'm up to. You'll now see front fitting is in place, bracket, you'll also see the hammer's still in place holding it up, and the back, and I think it's all lined up. I'm hoping I can take this hammer out and it's not all going to fall. Let's give that a try. Success. So I think that's now in place and going to work and do the job that I want. Only be able to tell when we start it up, but hopefully that's my fabricated exhaust all done. Well, that took a lot more work on the exhaust than I was expecting. Fingers crossed though that that's all made up now, and you should have seen from the last shots, it looks like I've got that sussed and it all looks like it's lining up. Took a lot of customization, but there we go. I was hoping to get more done in this video actually, but in the end all we've done is got the exhaust. So next video we'll probably start it up, try out a few things on it and see how we get on. So please remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.